Log into gyroscopeme.com, the hottest online radio station in the world. GS Radio all day, all night, worldwide. Powered by Gyroscope Media Group, LLC.
GS Radio, the best internet radio station worldwide. Providing the best in music and talk shows. Go to www.gsradionj.com and check out the best internet station in the world. You're listening to GS Radio Internet Radio Station powered by GMG LLC.
In the beginning there was Jack, and Jack had a groove. And after a while, a deep sleep fell upon him, and he went looking for a new groove. He began looking for a new nation, and it had to be a soulful nation. And he found it, and it was Soulful House Nation. And he saw a building. It was a tall building. It had 10 stories, and he entered the building and got on the elevator and pushed the 10th floor, but it stopped on the 8th floor. And that's where he found his new groove. And he began to jack and jack and jack and jack. And he knew that this was it. It was Soulful House Nation on the 8th floor. Get ready, get ready, get ready.
Suspect. This is Soulful House Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we got another one. This one is extra special, and you're going to see why in a little bit. Well, first, I want to do just quick recap just to go back from last week. Last week we had Anthony Utility. Go back and check out that interview. Then also, too, we're going to play the song of the week according to Track Source, the number one song. Then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to play an old, give you a couple of updates, and then we're going to come on with our very, very special guest, Mr. Curtis McLean. Let me tell you something. Okay, all I can say for you regarding this interview is that buckle up for safety. Anyway, okay, so listen. The number one song going to Track Source in the Soulful House category, and actually this is for the second week. It's Ukes, Ellis Aaron, and it's called "Do It for the Soul." So as usual, we're going to play a snippet of it, but I just want to just give a little bit of a shout out, which I always like to do, is to posthumously Chuck Roberts, who did our vocal drop. Then second, I want to just give a big shout out to King T Finesse and also Ariel Shante for putting our theme song together. And also, too, we got a new track from King T Finesse. So that's exciting. Next, we're going to do this. So do us a favor. We're in multiple sites. We're on, of course, we're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on, let's see, Vimeo. We're on Twitch. We're on X. We're on the website. We're a whole bunch of places. In addition to that, after the show is over, we're going to reload it up to a bunch of other sites too. And of course, you can repost it, reshare, etc., etc., etc. So let's do this. Hey, Chuck, we just play a snippet of the number one song according to Track Source, because you know, Facebook is a nasty, nasty little habit of shutting us down and muting us out. Chuck, can you give me a little snippet? Facebook is this nasty, nasty little habit of shutting us down and muting us out. So we're just going to back off that for a minute. Hey, listen, here's some 8th Floor news. Okay, so some tracks that you should be checking for. King T Finesse has a new track out. It's called Dance Again. And then, too, I want to just bring this up. Another very talented producer who sometimes, in my opinion, flies under the radar. There's African Soul. He's got a new track out. We're going to play the soulful vocals mix. You're going to hear that in a little bit. A few other things you should know. Today our special guest is Curtis McClain. And I tell you, if you don't know, it's like Biggie said, I'm going to say the Brooklyn philosopher. So if you don't know, now you know. Next week we have DJ Bukim. So we got a lot of stuff happening here. But let's do this. Let's play our old school track for one moment. We're gonna play a little bit of a hint of it, and then of course we're gonna fade it out. And then after we fade it out, we're gonna come on with our special guest. So Chuck, can you hit that old school track? Maybe Curtis will recognize it. I'm not sure. I got carried away there. You know, I don't want Facebook to shut us down or mute us out. Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest today is Curtis McClain. Now, Curtis, how are you? I can't hear him. I can't hear him. Can you hear me? There you go. There you go. So
Can you hear me?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have Curtis McClain on. So listen, before we get started, Curtis, I just need to give you a little bit of background about me. And typically I don't do this, but because I'm in the presence of greatness, I need to do this. All right? So let me just take you back a little bit, you know, when I was a little bit younger, not too long ago. Anyway, I heard about this music called house music. And I used to be embarrassed to say it, but I'm not embarrassed anymore, because you know what?
What's that?
As they say, this is what I thought house music was the music you played in the house. I didn't realize. Anyway.
Now, you know what, Dan? When I first heard it, I thought the same thing.
Is that right?
You know what I'm saying?
Now I feel normal. I feel better. 'Cause I'm telling you, I thought that's what. And someone pulled me. Come here, man. Let me talk to you. No. So, well, you know, I'm super excited to have you here because I played this song I don't know how many times.
Oh,
And
man.
now you put it on the floor, it's like you got to come to the dance floor. It's like it's still and I tell you what. So this song is like, you know, when people say they're DJing, they hold their hand up and they're scratching and stuff like that when they think of DJing. But when they think of house music, I'm talking about people with no background, don't know anything about it, but they know, okay, house music all night long. They don't even sing it right, but they know that. And you know what's exciting is that this song is like, you don't have to be into basketball to know about Michael Jordan. You didn't have to be into boxing to know about Muhammad Ali. You don't have to be into tennis to know about Serena Williams. And you don't have to be into house music to know about Move Your Body. So
Move Your Body, right.
This is one of those amazing, amazing, amazing songs that it really, really is the house music anthem.
Yes.
Got a call. I had a friend once died because he had a call. Of course, at the time, he was in his neighbor's closet. Anyway, so let's get started a little bit. You know, let's start off with the easy stuff. Just tell us a little bit about you. You know, where you're from, your background, etc., like that.
I'm from Chicago, Illinois. Grew up in the '60s. Stayed in it was a pretty prominent, you know, African American area. You know, people were kind of well-to-do. You know. Background, you know, I grew up in a household where there was always music, always. And I guess that's what got me into it. My dad was a jazz fanatic. My mom's loved like Brooke Benton, Sam Cooke, and, you know, the Drifters and stuff. So I listened to my mom's stuff. I didn't really get into jazz until I got like maybe in my 20s or my 30s and stuff. Because my dad listened to that type Oscar Peterson type stuff, and that's to Miles Davis. I like the contemporary jazz, you know, like when Bob James hit the scene, Grover Washington, you know. So, but basically, you know, I came from a pretty decent, you know, background, and you know, always had music in me, man. Just always had music in me. You know, because the household that I grew up in, you know. So, basically, you know, just nothing really much to talk about, until
right
after
there.
I recorded Move Your Body. That's the exciting story.
We're gonna get to that. Yeah, could you speak just a little louder? Marcus, what's up? Thanks for joining us. I just want to take a minute just to give Marcus a shout out. Marcus tries to be behind the scenes and stuff like that, but I got to
Right.
tell you,
What's up, Marcus?
yeah, Marcus. Like, you know how a car needs a transmission,
Right.
So, yeah, Mark, like you can't, you're going nowhere with that. You have a nice car,
Right.
you have all that, but that transmission's not there. You're going nowhere. So I just want to just give him a big thank you.
Right.
So now how about some of your early music influence? I know you mentioned your mom as a person, in the family.
Right.
Who did you listen to? I know you originally started out listening to, because mom's played the Drifters, Sam Cooke, stuff like that. Who else
Right.
did you listen to?
Right.
back in the day?
I listened to that, but that, it was the Temptations.
Okay. All right.
When I heard the Temptations,
Mhm.
my mom's used to drop me, like I say, musical. I mean, it was just music.
Mm-hmm.
Did all aspects in the household.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's went to concerts. She would go to concerts at the Regal Theater,
Okay.
and she would go. It's like the shows would run for like a whole week.
Oh.
So she would go the opening night
Mm-hmm.
to find out what time the show started, what time the show let out.
Mm-hmm.
So she would go the first night. She would come home from work and grab me, my oldest brother, and my sister, and would take us down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She took us, we saw so many concerts and shows at the Regal Theater when I was a kid. I was like 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, okay.
And we saw, she took us to the Motown Review.
Mm.
And I saw David and Eddie. When I saw them work that stage, I said, that's what I want to do for a living.
Okay. Okay.
And when the J5 hit the scene, it was a done deal. I'm like, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
That's when I saw them. I felt like I was one of them brothers, but But the J5, the Commodores, LTD, the Shy-Lights,
Wow.
Everybody, man. And, I went to a lot of concerts, when I was a kid and a teenager, and I picked up everything from everybody that I saw, And that's what got me here now. But I never would have thought that it would have been house music, because I was like an R&B singer, you know what I'm saying? I'd be down at the post office. You had me.
Okay.
It's just that you was young. I'm singing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when this guy went in the studio and
Well,
played this track, I'm like, what? I'm like, dude, what is this?
Okay. Wow. Well, I would have joined in on you, but I know my limitations. Yeah. So you started telling us how you got into house music, and did you ever see this as being this global movement?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So.
Not even.
Okay.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I told him after I sang the last ad lib, and he said, "That's it." I said, "That's it. That's it." I say, "Man, don't let nobody hear that." "Oh, what's the matter, dude? You don't like it?" I say, "Man, don't let nobody hear that." He took it down to the music box that we recorded it that morning, going into the afternoon. He took it down to the music box the same night, gave it to Ron Hardy, and the rest is history, man.
Yeah, Curtis,
It
can you
was
speak a little louder?
really good.
Yeah, 'cause we can barely hear you.
You can barely hear me?
Yeah, now I can
Okay.
hear you better.
You
Yeah,
can hear me
it's a
now?
little
Okay.
louder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he took it down to see Ron Hardy. Ron Hardy was a legend, just as Frankie Knuckles.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so the story goes. So Yeah, the story's going that he took it down to Ron Hardy. Okay. Okay, and then what
Right. He
happened?
took it down there, and he said, what I've heard several people say it, that Ron Hardy played it 6 times back to back the first night.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it was an unbelievable experience for me, man, because it wasn't that I didn't like the song. I just didn't like the voice that he had me use, you know.
Got you.
You know, because I'm thinking, you know, we get ready to come in here and do some Marvin Gaye type stuff, you know, some smooth, you know, like, you know, man, he had me belting out them screaming rock vocals, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing, man? But one thing I will say, he knew what they wanted to hear, because if I had did it in that original R&B voice, Move Your Body wouldn't have had the impact that he had with me doing them screaming vocals, you know.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so, Chuck, can you turn me up a little bit? Yeah. Well, you know what's crazy is that sometimes you're the last one to, you know, to really get it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just like a guy walking around who really needs to take a shower. And he's he's the last one to get it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And wow, you know, but I got to tell you something. Well, you were blessed on that. Well, okay, so now you've been in house music before house music. Back when they were calling even club music or this, you've been around since then.
Right.
Where do you see house music headed?
Today,
Yeah. Like today, where do you think this thing is going?
you know, I'm just going to speak from my personal experience, man,
Right.
About things that I've gone through in house music. You know, you would have think, especially in Chicago, that house music would have evolved from the madness that was going on back in the 80s with the record labels and, you know, stealing money, not paying people, and, you know, like they say, it's strength in numbers.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you see that, okay, these guys ain't going for this, but that divide and conquer thing, man, you know, they had that real bad here in Chicago, man.
Wow.
So it was like they still, but it's the artists that's doing it now. You know, they picking up from what the label owners did. And the crazy part about it, man, and I'm only speaking about Chicago house. That's why Chicago house never got the respect that they deserved, because all the backslapping and the thievery and the undercutting, and, you know, like if a DJ, somebody booked a DJ for $75. Now he come this DJ saying, "Oh, I'll DJ it for $25."
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
You cheapening the value of what you got going on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And there was a lot of that going on in Chicago, man. And a lot of people don't know this, but I walked away for 20 years.
Okay.
I walked away for 20 years, you know, because of the stuff that I was going through with Marshall. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. And, you know, it's just, I just got tired of it. I'm like, dude, I didn't get into this to be surrounded by a bunch of leeches and thieves. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And he had a lot of that going on. So, you know, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let y'all have it, man. You know. So, yeah.
All right. So, let's talk about the house music anthem. You know, and what's crazy about that, everybody acknowledges that song. I mean, whether because here's what I see. Okay, so the music, this style of music is the original house music.
Right.
The original sound. And
Right.
God bless all the EDM cats, but that came out of this.
Right.
The garage cats came out of this.
Right.
The techno cats came out of this.
Right.
The trance cats came out of this. The acid came out of this. You name it.
Right.
You name it. It came out of this original sound, and I
Right.
called them descendants of it. You know, and every child is different. So
Right.
that's what I see. But how did this song come about? How did it come to life? What happened that, in terms of the creation of the song, and how did that come about? So you're in the post office doing your thing, minding your own business, and then what happened?
That was basically pretty much it.
Okay.
Because Marshall came to work the night before and said he had wrote this song and we was going to record it when we got off.
Okay.
Nobody. And let me say this too. Let me set the record straight here as well. "Move Your Body" is not a Marshall Jefferson song. It's an On the House featuring Curtis McClain song. He never credited us for what we did, you know.
Okay.
So let me just put that out there.
Okay.
That's not a Marshall Jefferson song. Marshall took credit for what we did. Okay, so he comes to work and he says, "Dude, I wrote this song. We're going to go in the studio and record it when we get off." We go in the studio, and I want everybody to understand this. Everything that we did with him, the first time we heard it, we never got demos, say, "Hey, dude, I wrote this song, man, get comfortable with it." Everything we did was, when we got in the studio, that was the first we heard of the song.
Okay.
That's the first we heard of it. So basically, all the songs that he put out on us were first take demos.
Okay.
First take demos.
So
we go in there, and Rudy Forbes.
Yeah, let me just I want you to pause for 1 minute. So the people who don't know what that means, just in case, that means you guys went in, handed you some lyrics, and boom, you ran it, and that was that, correct?
That was that.
No,
that was that.
No, just let's.
That was that.
Okay, go ahead.
That was that.
That's to your talent, but we can keep it moving.
That was that.
Uh-huh.
And that was every song that we did with him. Every song. Okay, so when he presented us, said that we're going to the studio, I had left my girl at the house. You know, we worked nights.
Okay.
You know, 12:06 to 8:36. So my girl had stayed at the house. So I'm like, okay, I can't go straight to the studio. So I had to go home and, you know, take my girl where she had to go. So by the time I got there, Rudy Forbes, who was the piano player at the intro, that's who's playing the piano intro. Rudy Forbes, that he never gives credit to. May he rest in peace. When I got to the studio, Rudy was finishing up his solo. So after he did that, Marshall said, "All right, dude, come on." Got in the booth. I got in the booth. He handed me a piece of paper with these lyrics on it. And so he says, "All right, dude," it goes, "gotta have house music all night long."
Okay.
I said, okay. So I originally sang it, you know, "gotta have house music all night." I did it like in a smooth R&B voice.
Right.
He let me record that whole verse in that voice. And he stopped the tape and he said, "No, dude." He was like, "Punch it. You know, gotta have house." You know, I'm like, now keep in mind, we done worked 8 hours.
Okay.
8 hours. We get off in the morning. Now you'll hear a singer tell you in a heartbeat. Singers don't sing in the morning. That's why concerts are designed for night, because your voice is groggy when you wake up.
Right.
But we had been working all night up on that dusty 9th floor. Dust, everything. And I'm trying to belt out these vocals at 11, 12 o'clock. I think by the time I started recording the vocals, it's like around 11 or 12 o'clock. So now I done been up for 12 hours now.
Okay.
You know, well, over 12 hours, because I had to get up and get ready, because we started at 12:06, got off at 8:36. So now I've been up for 12 hours. I'm tired. I'm trying to belt out these vocals. And I'm like, okay. And then after I did the verse, and if you listen to the original version, after I say it's going to set you free, I mumble something. Marshall told me what it was. I mumbled, but it bled. It bled through. It bled through on the tape.
Okay.
So I'm like, man. I said, okay. So after I did that, then me, him, Rudy Forbes, and Tom Carr came in to do the Move Your Body, Rock Your Bodies and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after we did that, he said, all right, dude, I need some ad-libs.
Okay.
I said, no, man. I said, you do the ad-libs. No, dude, I need you to do the ad-libs. I'm saying, what would I say? He said, just look on the sheet and just pick stuff out on the sheet. Just throw them in the, splash them in ad-libs.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, I'm sitting up here struggling, trying to belt these vocals out. I mean, I was really tired.
Gotcha.
And, I'm like, okay, man, come on. No, dude, I need you to do it. So we did it.
Okay.
I did it. And then when I sang the last ad-lib and he said, that's it, me and Tom Carr, which I don't know if you all got this cut out there called Fix It Man. Did that hit out there?
I don't remember the cut.
Ragtime.
What was the name again?
Fix It Man.
Okay.
I'm your Fix It Man with my tool in my hand. Tom was really a rapper. He wrote like little raps and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And he did it with Ragtime, which is Tent City.
Okay.
The members from Ragtime became Tent City.
Okay.
We both looked at each other, was like, that's it.
What just happened? Oh, Lord.
Man, I'm like, man, I say, hey, man. I said, don't let nobody hear that. Oh, well, what's the matter, dude? I said, man, just don't let nobody hear that. Man, he said he was bugging me for months, about 4 or 5 months, man, telling me, oh, dude, you need to come down and see how they respond and move your body. And I would wave my hand like, man, go ahead home with all that, man. But I see you had in one of the questions about the first time I heard it on the radio or at the club.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finally went down to the music box to see how they would respond. Excuse me. Now we was driving around looking for a parking spot.
Okay.
Underground.
Mm-hmm.
And while we riding around looking for a parking spot, it was these 3 young ladies sitting in their car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, heads hitting the roof of the car, man. They was bouncing so hard in the car and stuff. I told Tom, I said, man, turn your radio down. I say, listen to what they listening to.
Okay.
Tom turned his radio down, right? Mm-hmm. So he says, Tom said, ooh, let's hear him get in here, right? Mm-hmm. So we get in there. We finally get in there. And when we got in, Marshall was in the DJ booth. Oh, and so Marshall says, oh, man, dude, Ron just got through playing it. Ron Hardy looked over his shoulder and saw me in the DJ booth and put it right back on. Not even 30 minutes later.
Okay.
Not even 30 minutes later. Mm-hmm. Dun, 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 dun. All you hear is a roar in the club, right?
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun. When that drum roll came in and I said, gotta have house, you couldn't even hear the music no more. All you heard was a roar. You could not hear the music.
Wow.
I walked out the DJ booth, shaking my head, saying, I do not believe this. Him and Tom, Marshall and Tom, followed me out the DJ booth. Mm-hmm. And there was 3 guys walking by. Mm-hmm. And Marshall was like, come here. See, Marshall hung out at the music box. That was the first time me and Tom had ever been to the music box.
Okay.
So Marshall hung out at the music box. So he kind of knew people down there. Mm-hmm. So these 3 guys were walking by. And he was like, come here. I want to introduce you to these guys.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's like, these are the guys that made Move Your Body. And it was like, oh, word? Oh, okay. But it was a young lady in earshot that heard what he said.
Okay.
And she walked over. She said, wait a minute, what did you just say? And he was like, these the guys that made Move Your Body. So girl singled me out. She pointed at me and she said, you made Move Your Body? So Tom kind of leaned in front of me and said, yeah, baby, that's us, that's us. She moved Tom out the way, extended her right hand, shook my hand and said, congratulations, you got a hit record. I said, well, thank you, I appreciate that. So, why she singled me out, you know, and move him out, because he's telling you, yeah, baby, that's us. I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear nothing you talk about. I'm trying to get with this guy here. So, but here's the funny part of it. Well, not funny, but, you know, it's like, you know, why would Marshall make him the face of that song? You know what I'm saying? You know, and I never really thought about, you know, how when you hear a radio personality or something, you be like, oh, I wonder what that person looks like.
Right.
I never thought that people would wonder what I look like until this young lady walked up on the same young lady that said, congratulations, you got a hit record. I'm standing out on the dock. She comes out on the dock. She says, let me get this straight. She said, you're the one that sings Move Your Body. I said, yeah. She said, well, who was the guy that introduced you? Because they call him Virgo, right?
Okay.
Because word down here is he's the one that made Move Your Body. I said, no, he wrote it.
Gotcha.
She said, but you sang it. I said, exactly. She says, oh, thank God. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, okay, well, we get ready to go with this. You know what I'm saying? She looks at me and she says, he ruined my every fantasy of what I thought the guy would look like to sing that song. Thank you for being the one that sings Move Your Body, and walked away blowing kisses at me. And I'm like, will you please stop? You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Wow.
And I'm like, come on, dude. But the irony of all of this, have you ever seen that picture of him that promotes Move Your Body with his hair curled up like one of the lollipop kids from the Wizard of Oz?
No, I haven't. Right.
You haven't seen that? Okay. Well, the irony of all of that, you know, when I met with his manager, and here's the thing, I never told anybody I wanted a record deal. I never told anybody that because I had read the war stories about the people that I idolized, how they never saw royalty checks. Their rights were signed away. Their money was made off of their live performances, right? So I go down here to talk to this guy, and this guy says, you know, Marshall calls me up and say, hey, man, I got this guy that can get y'all a record deal. I never wanted a record deal. Rudy wanted the record deal. There was no record deal without me. So I called Rudy. I say, hey, Rudy, let's go down there, man. Go down there. This guy says he's going to give us 4 points to split. I'm like, okay. He's going to give us 4 points to split. At the time, I didn't know what a point was. You know what I'm saying? But he's ignorant enough to say what he's going to pay somebody else. Right. So I said, wait a minute. I said, hold on, man. I said, Move Your Body was charting on Billboard at this particular time. I said, wait a minute. I said, we got a track that's charting on Billboard, and you're going to tell me you're going to give us 4 points to split, and you're about to give an unknown 5 points right off the bat? Oh, well, Kurt, what you fail to understand is sex sells. I said, who don't get that? I said, I get that. I said, but you can't see no titties over the radio.
Okay.
I looked at Rudy. I said, hey, you ready to go, man? He shrugged his shoulders and we left. Marshall called me later on that afternoon and said, how did it go, dude? I said, I don't want no dealers with the guy. I do not want him in my affairs.
All right. Okay. Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Oh man, Dan. Man, I didn't been. I think I got the most unique story in music history ever in any genre. You wouldn't believe when you get off this phone from this interview and say, man, he ain't do nothing but tell a whole bunch of lies. But every word I'm telling you is the truth. It's the truth, man. You know.
Let me ask you this question. So there's a lot of hype around a lot of songs, and this is called the house music anthem. Did you have any idea, and I think you kind of hinted at it, that you were recording the actual house music anthem?
No.
Okay.
No.
What did
no,
you think when you? Okay. So you already said that. I just want to follow me just for a minute. You said first of all you thought it was gonna be some R&B tip stuff. Then you said when you heard it, you were like, not really feeling that. Now
Right.
you're seeing this, see this thing blow up. At that point, or did any point along the way, did you say, hey, wait a minute, this is the house music anthem?
That was, I mean to cut you off, that was like 6 or 7 months after we started touring out there on the East Coast. And I mean, we were out there, if not all 4 weekends out of each month for almost 3 years. We was out there at least 3 weekends a month, doing 2, 3, sometimes 4 shows a night. Friday, Saturday, and if it was a holiday, Monday, Sunday. We were killing them out there, man. And after about 6 or 7 months, I'll say, well, maybe this is a hit. You know what I'm saying? so
you were the last one to believe it, huh?
I was, man, it was like, I mean, even though I could perform it, a young lady came to we did the first, we did 4 weekends, all 4 weekends of December of 1986. That's when we started coming out on the road. So the first show that was ever done here in Chicago was we performed at the Powerhouse New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And I kind of got, them track dates, they had started to grow like real boring for me because a young lady that knew me, when she came and saw me, she said, Pooh, she said, you really look bored up there on that stage. I mean, it was like, okay, give me something new to do. And that's why I love the live band thing, because I can stretch out and do my thing, with the live band. But that everything is already put and pasted down, and you got to follow this routine every night, So, but we did that show, and see, the word was, we was never credited for what we did. Nobody knew who Curtis McClain was. Everybody associates my vocals with Marshall's name. And because Marshall, like I say, he was the only one doing interviews, so all you heard was his narratives. And he kept everybody a secret. You know what I'm saying? So now I come, and here's the thing. When I walked away, it was on the brink of a second UK tour. And I walked away because I told him that I didn't want no dealings with his manager. And man, this guy came in, he even called an emergency meeting where I went down there to talk with him. For him, he called this emergency meeting for me to agree to have him apart. I told him in front of him and everybody that was in that room, I have no use for you. Okay, now he starts pulling the Marshall Jefferson card. Oh, you the man, they riding off your coattail. So he came in and started making power moves. So instead of him taking 20% of Marshall's cut, he was taking 20% off the top, which means he was taking 20% of my money, and I didn't have a contract with him. And I told Marshall to call him off. Marshall said he couldn't do it. I said, okay, man, I'm out. This was on the brink of the second UK tour. He calls up his manager and he says, oh, dude said he ain't going. His manager calls me up and says, are you going on the tour? I said, are you involved? He said, yes, I am. I said, no, I'm not going. He said, fine, we'll find somebody else, and hung up the phone in my face.
Okay.
I said, now, wait a minute. I said, and I tell people this. To be successful at something, you have to understand how things work. Marshall and his manager never understood how things work. What do you mean, we'll find somebody else?
Okay.
Who you gonna find but Curtis McClain?
Gotcha.
You know, you got these people out here spending their hard-earned money going out buying this music that they liked. Okay. They went out and bought Move Your Body. Okay, then you find out that, oh snap, the guy that made Move Your Body is coming to do a live performance. You go spend your hard-earned money to go see the guy that sings Move Your Body.
Right.
Do you want to see the guy that actually sang it, or do you want to see the guy that took credit for singing after you just spent your hard-earned money?
Right. I want to see the guy who sang it.
That's what I'm saying. Man, he was getting booed off the stage everywhere he went, man.
Wow.
He was getting booed everywhere he went.
Wow.
Right.
That must have been
But
something.
they thought because he's Marshall Jefferson, that was the reason why everything was happening. No, that's not why things were happening. They wasn't coming to see you. They were coming to see the content that you stuck your name on. That's what they were coming to see.
Wow.
But you can't help how people that don't know interpret situations, you know.
Now, the song really blew up in the UK. Now, how did that happen? And certainly it was hot. While it was hot in the US, it seems like the UK accepts music faster than we do in the US. Why do you think that is? Or is
Well,
it
you know, the dance scene over there is so big, man. I mean, it's really big. It's, you know, when we went over there, and the dance scene on the East Coast, really, really big. When we came out and started touring, man, you know, it was kind of, we had a few clubs that was, you know, kind of looked like somebody had invested some money to make this club and stuff. But you come out on the East Coast, you saw that they invested in their nightlife. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You saw that they invested in their nightlife over in the UK. You know what I'm saying? Went to they had this, when they came out with them lasers, where you could run them lasers and it could make it look like people were underwater and stuff like this. And I'm like, and I said, man, there ain't too many places in Chicago that's like that, you know.
Like, wait a minute, what's
But
going
the
on?
UK, but you know, Move Your Body, a lot of people don't know this. Move Your Body circulated on a cassette tape all over the world for about 7 or 8 months before it actually got pressed up.
Okay.
When Move Your Body got over to the UK on a cassette, they were interviewing us. This is before Move Your Body got pressed up. They had came to interview us. We was in the studio recording the 24-track version for DJ International when they came from the UK, and they were interviewing us. And it was like, oh, Curtis, we setting up a tour for you guys, man. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Circulated, man. But it was, like I say, the UK, they just, they love American music, man. They love American house. You know, they just got that soul about themselves. They got, you know, I mean, you see them, they walk around, you know, they just, in fact, like I say, when we went over there, we did a tour in March, a 3-week tour in March of '87. And a lot of gothic type, you know, like a gothic vibe over there, man. You know, so, right. And, hey, man, they love house music, man.
Wow.
You know, yeah, it's like, you know, we viewed as like kings and gods over there, you know. When I got on Facebook, man, and, you know, oh, Curtis, when you're coming over, you know.
Did you see that coming?
Right. Oh, man.
I mean, in terms of how they perceived you in the UK versus the US, did you see that coming?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No. In fact, when we got over there, when we did the 3-week tour, you know, I recorded 5 songs with Marshall before I walked away. And one of the songs was Pledge Control, right? So when we went over there and we did the BBC, the real radio station over there,
Right, okay.
the only radio station over there. You know, all the rest of it was like underground bootleg radio stations and stuff.
Okay.
So we sitting around the round table, and so you know, the radio jock had everybody, you know, introduce themselves. So he's doing a roll call. So it was a couple of people before me and Marshall. So got to Marshall. Marshall said Marshall Jefferson. Got to me and said Curtis McClain. He said, "Oh, Pledge Control."
Gotcha.
I said, "Y'all got that over here?"
Okay.
"Oh, that's a big hit over here."
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
"What?" Yeah, it was big. It was big in the UK and it was big in Canada.
Isn't that interesting?
And when we went to Canada, when the promoters came to pick us up from the airport, we standing around the carousel waiting on our luggage. 4 promoters came and picked us up. Every last one of them. When I said, "Hey, how you doing, man? Curtis McClain." "Oh, I've been dying to meet you." Like, what? Like, I'm like, okay, it is some people out here that know who Curtis McClain is, right? So we went from the airport and did an in-store. We in the record shop, right? Walk in, this young lady, gorgeous. You know, sometimes, man, you forget that you're out of the country.
Got you.
And you think you just on another side of town in Chicago, right? So I walk in the record shop, young lady, you know, pretty little thing, man. I looked at her, I said, "What are you doing in here?"
Okay.
He says, "I live here." I said,
Okay.
"Have I met you before?" Every question that I asked her, she just kept saying, "I wish, I wish." I said, "You look so familiar to me." She's like, "I wish." I said, "Have you ever been on TV or something?" She's like, "I wish," and stuff, right?
Okay.
So, you know, I was a record collector, right? So I'm in the record shop. I'm looking to collect music. So I'm in there looking, riffling through the bins, you know, to see what they got. They put Pleasure Control on in the record shop. Man, that whole record shop went up in flames. I said, "Oh, Pleasure Control is big." I'm like, "Pleasure Control is big." Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, wow." I'm like, and man, I hated that song. You know, and I mean, like I say, first take demos, right? If you listen to that song and you hear me, you can tell that I'm reading off of a piece of paper.
Okay. But you can hear it anyway.
What did you say? You're leaving? I'm mimicking Eddie Murphy.
Gotcha.
Baby, please. Baby, please. You would think this guy would said, "Okay, dude, let's go in here, clean up this cut. Because I got somebody that wants to put it out. Let's go in here and clean it up and put it out." He puts it out as is, man.
Wow.
I went from a person that could sing, Dan, that getting with him sounded like I couldn't sing, man.
Wow. That's something. You know, you never know. I know an artist who, I'll tell you offline, who made this song, and it probably was her biggest song. And she said to me, she said she did not care for that song because it was off key and all. Let me tell you something. As an untrained musician, I can't tell if something. I mean, if somebody sounds like a mule, then I could.
Right.
But if it's an A key, a B key, a A key, I have no idea. And you know, of course, she could hear it right away, and I was like, "That was your biggest song? I don't care. Our song is terrible." I said, "Okay, you say so." But
yeah, man.
every time she performed, they wanted her to perform that song. She would do her best, I guess, to correct it when she got on stage, you know, to get it in the right key, so to speak. But you know, us mere mortals, you know, and that's just like with you and your song. You like,
yeah.
and the
But you know what though, Dan? After about 6 or 7 months of us going on the road, right?
Uh-huh.
I had females come in the dressing room to get autographs and stuff, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
And they would come in the dressing room. They say, "You sound better live than you do on the record."
Okay.
I say because I said the records were the demos. I said my shows are my rehearsals for me getting comfortable with the song.
Got you.
Because after 6 or 7 months, man, I was terrible. Man, they couldn't get enough of the Curtis McClain show, man. It was crazy, man. I mean, I did a show out there by myself.
Okay.
And I've always, it was like I always dug the group concept thing. But when we went out the first weekend of December of 1986, Frank Rodrigo, who was Marshall's other manager, put up, set up everything for us to get out there and do these shows and stuff, right? So he sent his people out to be our road managers, to bring our money back to him and report back to how the shows were going. We did 3 shows that Friday night, the first weekend of December. We did 3 shows that Friday night. Saturday morning, the road manager jumped on the phone and called Frank up and said, "Curtis is the star. He don't need them."
Okay.
Frank Rodrigo drew a contract up for me. And I read that contract. I'm like, dude, I'm not signing this contract. So what happened, with him bringing our money back, taking all the road managers, taking our money back to him, Frank Rodrigo had our money, right? So he sent this guy that was, that was kind of hanging out with us, that I guess he thought, oh man, yeah, you'll be able to convince him to sign this contract. I said, okay. So I held him at bay for like maybe 2-3 weeks and stuff, but he was badgering me, man. And I'm like, let me get this dude off my back, man. I said, man, listen, ain't nothing I can do with that contract, man. Oh, so you're not going to sign? I said, no, man. He told Frank called me up. He said, well, we got a contract with Marshall. And say Marshall did a lot of production gigs that we didn't get paid for, so we keeping all the money. We made almost $40,000 for that 1 month of December in 1986.
Wow.
All we saw of it was $500.
Wow. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, what I'm gonna do, only only because of the time element. Some of the questions you already answered, but I want to ask you this, and then I want to come back to the lessons, because that's going to be really important for a lot of people that hear this. What's the difference about performing, say, in the U.S. versus other countries like UK or some other place? What would you say is the difference, or what's the same?
With me, with me, I get the same reaction everywhere I go, man. I get the same reaction. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, when we did that, and I don't know if that's customary over there. When you do your finale song, every show we did, they allowed females to come up on stage. I don't care how big or how small the stage was. The stage would be built with females.
Got you.
They hanging off my neck. I'm pretty tall.
Okay.
They hanging off my neck, pulling me down, kissing me on the cheek and wiping sweat.
Okay. Right. Wow.
But no, I mean, it's a beauty. And like I say, I didn't have much of a career thanks to this guy, discrediting me. But the little time that I have had to let people know who I am and to share my talents, man, it's been a beautiful ride, man. I mean, the love that they have for me, man, is unbelievable.
Wow.
Unbelievable, man.
Wow.
So
Now, well, you kind of said it, but I'm just going to ask you directly, where does Marshall Jefferson come into play? And what happened after the song came out, and were there opportunities that came from it?
Oh man, this guy, man, he just got. I mean, he just changed overnight.
Gotcha.
He changed overnight, man. I mean, he had got the big head. And I'm looking at him like, dude, how you got the big head and you took credit for something you didn't do?
Gotcha.
I mean, he had got to the point, man, he was running around talking about I'm Marshall Jefferson. I tell who to come and who to go. And I'm like, hey, dude, you need to lose that attitude. I say, this could end tomorrow. You know, but this guy, man, I mean, it's like he changed. He threw us under the bus every opportunity that he got, man. And I'm like, dude, you know, you come to the dance, you leave with who you came with, right?
Right.
Not Marshall. Like I say, man, I could have left them high and dry, but we all left the post office to try to pursue the music.
Gotcha.
When everybody, I was at an industry party out there on the East Coast. Old white man telling me they're dead weight, get rid of them.
Okay.
I'm not going to get rid of them. We all left the post office.
Right.
Marshall threw us under the bus every opportunity he got, man. Every opportunity he got, man.
Wow.
You know. And then, like I say, where he comes into play, you know, I mean, Marshall did what he did, you know, and, you know, left us out in the cold and still doing it. And you know, everybody comes to me in Chicago, hey, man, you need to let that go. Do you realize how much I lost? Nobody's paying attention to what I lost,
Right.
you know. And he's taking credit for everything. He's the only one that got paid and ain't sharing a dime with nobody. Nobody.
Wow.
You know, so I'm like, wow, what's this all about? I mean, what is all the hatred and the envy for? You know, well, not the hatred, but I know why he hates me, because of envy. You know what I'm saying? And dude, we ain't even on the same level on anything. Why is you envying me about something? You know what I'm saying? Right. So the guy just, you know, and like I said, the only reason why I'm really speaking on this because I see his interviews, and it's like he tries to flatter himself at my expense, and I don't like that. You know, I don't like that. So, you know, you running around here. He always had this from the night I met him in 1982. He's always had this hateful rivalry thing going on with me. He always wanted to rival me and everything. So it's like, when you trying to compete with somebody, what does that make you? That makes you an opponent. We were never teammates. He always viewed me as the enemy, you know? And I'm like, But then I got to listen to all these people talk about, oh man, he always said, I got to look out for the dude. Man, I don't hear nothing about what that guy said. Tell me what he did that backs up what he says.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Never did it, man. You know? And like I said, I tried to help the guy, man, because I really felt bad for him. You know, I tried to help him. But, you know, this is thanks he shows me, you know, for me trying to help him. You know? So,
what advice would you give to artists coming up today, especially those in-house, whether when it comes to getting credit, contracts, ownership? What advice would you give?
You know, I would tell people, since this, you know, it's everything, you can do your thing now, do your own labels, stream your own stuff. Don't mess with those labels, man. Don't mess with those labels, because you will never see a dime.
Right.
You will never see a dime, man. And like I said, I used to tell people back in the day when they would come and ask me, you know, Curtis, what kind of advice can you give an upcoming artist? Back in the day, I would tell them, get tight. Get real tight with a DJ with a large following. Now, it's up to you if you want the record deal, because my cousin worked for a record label. And he told me, he said, cuz, you know what the smart executives from the record labels do? They go to the clubs.
Right.
They go to the clubs and see what's hot in the clubs. Then they'll go and ask the DJ, wait a minute, who made that song there? And they'll tell them, oh man, how do I get in contact with that person? See, because they're the ones, see all that old squash that sending a demo to a record label, See, they have to see, and this is the same thing that happened with Marshall, with Larry Sherman, right? This is going back to before Move Your Body got pressed up. Marshall, Move Your Body was supposed to came out as on the house featuring Curtis McClain on Marshall's label. He said he claims he had paid Larry Sherman to press up 1,500 copies. Larry Sherman wouldn't press it up because basically Larry Sherman felt Move Your Body was garbage. You know what I'm saying? So when the guys came from the UK, when we was in the studio recording the 24-track version for Rocky Jones, and they came, Larry Sherman told them, Move Your Body is not house music. He said, I will take you to every club that's playing house music, and I guarantee you, you won't hear Move Your Body. He took them out Friday night. Every club, Move Your Body. Took them out Saturday night. and then playing it and people going bananas.
Wow.
Saturday night, every club, bananas. Larry Sherman never came in the city on a Sunday. He came in that Sunday, pressing up Move Your Bodies, not on Marshall's label, on Trax Records.
Wow.
Now my thing is, now this guy done refused you. Now he went out and saw the proof in the pudding. Not only did he not put it on your label, he put it on his label and took control over everything.
Wow.
Now what we thought, when we went down there to get copies, when he called us up and said, hey man, pressed up, Move Your Body. We go down there, we looking to see on the house on the label. We get down there, we see his name in big bold print. It's like, what's with this Marshall Jefferson trash? Oh, well, I told Larry to put the group's name on there. We go marching upstairs, right? What's with this Marshall Jefferson trash? Oh, well, Marshall told me to put the group's name. I just felt it was time that he got his name out there. I said, I'm looking at him like, okay, so what about everybody else? Okay. So I said, you know what? I said, okay. You know, I said he pounded the pavement. He did the leg work, you know, but you could at least said featuring lead vocals by Curtis McClain, you know. But not knowing, but, you know, we sitting up there because Marshall knows that everybody in on the house would have handled him some. You know, they would have handed him some, you know. And so this is why we all like, no, he ain't doing this to us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he was savvy enough to surround himself with people that he could put the blame on that would be believable, because Larry Sherman was a snake. His manager was a snake. So, you know, we all rolled with it.
Gotcha.
Then a couple of years ago, I get this document. See, people is coming out the woodwork on him now.
Okay.
I get this document that he drew up February 1st, 1986, saying that Move Your Body and Ride the Rhythm would be released as Marshall Jefferson as the artist. His signature and Larry Sherman's signatures on it. So it was his design. Larry Sherman just lied for him. He drew that agreement up. He drew it up personally.
Wow.
Like I say, man, but you know, I'm really thinking about, you know, I be telling people be like, man, you need to write a book. I say, man, I'm way ahead of you. But I was talking with this young lady, right? A buddy of mine, you know, we be trying to work on music, but we, you know, he be out, you know, be like, oh man, you know, he meet a female and he's like, man, can you sing? You know, like, no, but I've been in the video, you know, whatever. So he met this young lady and she told him that she had wrote 3 books. And so he said, man, I got a buddy that's trying to write a book. And so he says, you know, he gets the phone number. So they 3-way me one night. And so, you know, I'm talking to her about the book. And, you know, so I say, let me ask a question. I said, is it money in books? She said that depends on how much marketing you put in it. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, check out my title. Check out the title of my book that I'm about to write.
Okay.
And I said, move your body. House music's biggest lie. The truth will set you free by Curtis McClain.
Okay. All righty. All righty.
All she said was, wow. I said, nah, just that title alone ain't that big. Don't that title alone make you want to pick that book up and read it from cover to cover 2 or 3 times?
Well, what's the
She
thing?
said, wow. All she kept saying there was, wow.
Wow.
But I mean, you know, because I'm just tired of the discrediting us, man. You know, he's talking. I mean, these is interviews that he did back, and he's still continuing with these lies. I'm like, dude, why can't you just tell the truth, man? You know, what, you think your lies are more entertaining than the truth? You know, and I'm like, come on, man. This is crazy, man.
Yeah, so what would you say if I'm coming up now and you sit me down and say, hey, listen, I realize you want to get this into this business. I know you're excited and all that kind of stuff like that. What, let's say, as Big Brother or Uncle Louie, whatever, Uncle Curtis, what would you say to that young man or young lady looking to get into the game? It's probably brand new or maybe talented, but, you know, not really up on some of the things that can happen. What would you sit down and, like, in a few sentences, what would you say to that person and say, hey,
Well, you know, I would tell them to get a, you know, social media page to promote. Then get with Bandcamp and all those other outlets, them streaming outlets, and put your, I mean, it's so easy now, man, for people to really make money off of their music. I wouldn't deal with a label, and here's the part that people don't get about the label is, you know, they throw you in advance.
Gotcha.
Marshall's been notorious for getting $60 and $50 and $60,000 advances. Dude, you supposed to be the godfather of the house. Where's the multi-million-dollar advances that you're supposed to be getting?
Gotcha.
Then what they do is they got to recoup that 50 and 60, whatever it was they gave you. They got to recoup that before you start seeing money.
Gotcha.
Right? But now they've added on, they've cut a video for your stuff. That's coming out your money. Without your permission. They done went and had a video cut. Probably paid $150,000 for that video. Now that's $150,000 plus the 50 or 60. So now you $200,000 in the hole that they got to recoup before you see a dime.
So,
you know.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, they got streaming sites out there that people can, you know, subscribe to put their music out there. Them social media sites, TikTok,
gotcha.
Instagram, that's what you do. But like I say, before all of this, back in the day, it was the DJs. If you got a DJ, if you was cool with it, and that's how we got put on, man. Ron Hardy.
Gotcha.
That's how Ron Hardy broke everything we did at the Music Box. And that's how we really got put on, because his following, you know, Ron had him and Frankie had a large following. But there's a lot of people that was like just really partial to Ron because, you know, Frankie was a little more like conservative about, you know, it just had to have a certain sound for Frankie to like really push it.
Gotcha.
Man, the grungiest you made it, man. You can take it to Ron. Oh yeah, Ron to put it on.
Sounds like you gave a lot of people a shot, you know.
Oh yeah. Ron pushed, man. Like I say, music. Everybody started at the Music Box, man. Gotcha. Started at the Music Box, man, and went from there, man. And traveled all over the world for about 7 to 8 months, man, off of a cassette tape.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are you working on these days that you can share?
Oh man, I'm working on. I got this song. In fact, I'm trying to expound on it. I did a song, which, like I say, a lot of that stuff that I did with Marshall, man, I wasn't crazy about it, because it's really not my style. But it's a song that I did, and I did this little vocal interlude in the song. You know, I said, I can see the light. My brothers and sisters are gonna come together. We'll make this world a better. You know, I'm trying to hurry up and sing because people is looking. But that interlude that's in this song, over in the UK, they played it.
Gotcha.
The guy called me up. He said, Curtis, people are on the floor with tears in their eyes about this part, about that part.
Wow.
And so I said, you know what? I said, let me kind of expound on that. So I've got about maybe 5 or 6. I got about maybe 5 or 6 songs that's almost finished, man. That I'm gonna put out there, man, because, you know, here's the thing, man, you know, and I just get so tired of people supporting Marshall with this dumb stuff. You know, everybody's coming out the woodwork talking about, oh man, you need to get up off the couch and get out there and put some new music out. I got music out there.
Gotcha.
I got music out there that I was never credited for. I'll challenge anybody to tell me a Marshall Jefferson song in the last 25 years. He keeps riding off of Move Your Body.
Gotcha.
But everybody, oh, you need to get up off the couch. No, when is you going to go over and tell him, hey, man, when you going to put something out that you actually did instead of keep taking credit for what this man is doing? When are you going to do that? But they don't do that.
Right.
You know, it's like, man, I'm the least liked person in house music. I don't know what that's.
Okay. Now,
But,
if you could,
you know,
work with any artist or producer, old or new, who would it be now and why?
now, you know what? I'm starting to understand and realize that, you know, you was always taught to play well with others.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Don't work well with others, man, because they can't grasp my vision.
Gotcha. That's
You know, and it's like you tell them, okay, you know, I don't need arrangements. All I need is lyrics.
Gotcha.
You know, that's all I need. I got the template and the format how I want this song to go. You know, like the song that I wrote, well, I'm in the process of still writing it, called Strangers. You know, it's just something real simple, you know, strange as it seems. We've been living together as strangers for so long, strangers for too long. Then it goes into a change, right? Goes to people living in the same house. There's nobody there but you and me. I took it over to a couple of buddies, man. Man, they tore my song up.
Okay.
They tore it, man. I got to go in and start from scratch, man. You know.
Wow.
But they took it away from the concept that I had. You want to add, dude, I didn't ask for an arrangement.
Gotcha.
All I said, I need lyrics. And follow the template. You know, the template is do 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 do. You know, man, they want to change everything. Dude, that's not the melody for the verses. You know.
Okay.
So, and like I say, man, I can't work with people, man. And Marshall is the last person I will ever work with ever again, man. Last.
Now,
Oh man, you need to forgive. I say, me to agree to work with him after I walked away for 20 years was a sign of forgiveness. But I walked right back into the same thing that I walked away from with him back in the 80s. You know?
well, what would you want people to know about your role in shaping this music and the movement? What would you want people to know?
Wait a minute, say that again, Dan.
I said, what would you want people to know about your role in shaping this music and the movement?
Oh man, I mean, that's the thing. I was a very, man, I was very instrumental, but nobody knows who I am. And this, I appreciate, Dan, the opportunity, man, for you to put me on it, man, to give me the opportunity to let people know who I am and what I did, because I was very instrumental, man, you know, and it's like, you know, this guy continues to, you know, what is it for, man? I mean, do you hate me that much? I don't know if you follow the trade magazines, but they did an article in Rolling Stone, the 200 dance songs of all time, top 200 dance songs.
Came in number 8. That's what I don't get. How could it come in number 8? I'm not trying to hear that, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. It came in at number 8, and he credits Ricky Dillard as the vocalist.
Got you.
You know, do you know how humiliating? Now, like I say, he never gave me credit for what I did. Now I come back after 20 years, and I'm letting people know, okay, this is what I did, and this is who I am. How humiliating that is for him to have that put in that magazine,
Right.
to make me look like an imposter.
Right. Right.
You know.
Right.
But then you got the people here in Chicago that supports him. Oh, he didn't do that. What? You doing the journalist thing right there. If you had a print magazine, you was doing interviews for a print magazine, would you print something that I didn't say? With this interview here, would you print something that I didn't say?
Right. No, absolutely not.
Marshall told that guy, Ricky Dillard, because that guy's under the same impression, whoever did that interview is under the same impression that everybody else on the planet that knows about Move Your Body associates that song with his name.
Right.
Now, how was this guy privy to information that nobody else on the planet was privy to unless somebody told him that?
Right. Wow.
Like I say, Marshall's done tried to destroy me, man. My entire, in fact, his whole life changed for the better the night he met me in 1982. Trust me when I tell you, no exaggeration. His whole life changed for the better, man. The night he met me.
Now, if you describe your life using a house music lyric or a music title or track, what would it be?
I can't quite understand.
You want a background? Never mind. I'll leave you alone. I know my limitations. I know.
That's what that, man. Because I don't understand it, man. It's like, howdy.
Yes.
I don't understand how do these people continue to support this criminal, and you keep overlooking. I'm in this situation because of what he did. You know what I'm saying? Because my man Mike Hitman Wilson. Did you interview him, Dan?
No,
Mike.
but listen, put me in touch.
Okay. See, Mike gonna give it up. See, Mike is one of the ones. Mike, Adonis, Chuck Roberts.
Okay.
May that brother rest, man. I miss that brother, man. I love that brother, man.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna come
Chuck. I'm talking about the real players of house music. Right. The real.
Okay.
They don't play that. They don't play that stupid stuff that Marshall's doing. You know, Mike Hitman Wilson said in an interview, and Adonis called him up. He said, "Hey man," he said, "Mike Hitman Wilson is talking about you in this interview." I said, "Man," I said, "What Mike talking about?" He said, "Curtis McClain should be a millionaire. Curtis McClain should be a millionaire today." He said, "Marshall," he said, "Move Your Body did everything for Marshall, but nothing for him because nobody knew who he was."
Wow.
And I think this competitive thing that Marshall's got, he's taking it too far, man. He's really taking it too far, man. You know, and I mean, we talking about 4 decades, you know, of this. You know, you would think with me saying, okay, after 20 years, you know, well, actually, when he came back, oh man, dude, everything gonna be Curtis McClain this time. Move Your Body came out briefly on Open House Recordings, which is him and his business partner's label. It came out briefly as Curtis McLean.
Okay.
When he took it to Ultra, everything went back to Marshall Jefferson.
Gotcha.
I'm like, how long you think we're going to keep playing? I recorded that song. That song is on 4 labels. Trax Records, DJ International, Ultra, and Helix Records. I've yet to see a royalty check.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, that was my next question as we get ready to come in for a soft landing. If you, would have had the conversation up front and said, hey, listen, and he said, look, I'm going to put my name as if it's going to be my name on it, but I'll give you mention in it as the vocalist. If he said, hey, listen, it's going to be all my name, but I'm going to hit you off lovely. If later at some point when you realize your name wasn't there and he put your name on and or if he hit you off lovely, would you feel different about this whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, all I ask is, hey, man, give us our just due. You know what I'm saying? I didn't care nothing about this. This was the whole thing. Because I didn't care nothing. And like I say, we let that slide, but never thought that it was going to get this far. You know what I'm saying? That he was going to throw us under the bus. Hey, man, I didn't have a problem riding under your name.
Gotcha.
Just as long as I was able to get on the stage and perform my music and get paid what I was getting paid. I never had a problem with that. I never had a problem. Why? Because everybody showed me love. So it was like, I wasn't, so the thing of it, it was like, you let him and his manager tell it that, the shows was being booked because of him, because he's Marshall Jefferson and his manager. Nah, dude, that's not why the shows are being booked, dude. It's because of what I'm doing on that stage is why we continue to be booked, But like I say, I mean, I could have rolled with that still now if I was still out doing my thing. But Marshall had motives, man. He had motives of what he was trying to do. Marshall's always, just had to, like I say, that competitive thing he had going on with me. And he just ain't trying to go back to that life where he came from before, he got the big head, man. He's not trying to go back to that life, man, I mean, the life of no respect, man. I mean, no respect. I mean, I think it was more of a lot of people didn't like him, but that was kind of like on the back burner to the disrespect that they used to give him, man. It was like he was like a stooge, man. He was the brunt of everybody's joke. And I really felt bad for him. I tried to befriend this guy, man. But, you can't befriend somebody that's envious of you, man. You just can't, man. And like I say, but if he had just, looked out for everybody, yeah, I mean, we still, because I know we would still be making money.
Gotcha.
And he don't realize how good he had it with On the House. He don't realize how good he had it. He thought 10 CD and everybody else that he was working with was going to get him to the promised land. No. On the House was what got him there. And he dissed us for everybody, man,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are right down to the wire here. Any final thoughts? And if people want to follow you, keep up with you, or support you, or how do they do it?
Well, I got which I'm not the administrator of the page because I had to get off that I'm not a social media guy, but I do have an Instagram page.
Gotcha.
I got the Facebook page, which is, and I'm not an administrator, but I got 2 people that, runs the page. The Curtis Move Your Body McLean page.
Gotcha.
I'm about to do my niece called me up a couple of weeks ago. She said, Kurt, I'm going to do your Instagram page or TikTok page, one of the two, So. So you got to get them young people, them young savvy, tech savvy people.
Right,
Because
right.
I am not tech savvy at all, Dad. I'm like, man, it's like I don't type, and I had to get off of Facebook because, if I come on Facebook and say something, oh man, people's like, oh, Curtis, so and so. They shoot a text a question at me, right? I'm on my laptop pecking. Man, they just sent about 4 or 5 questions while I'm still trying to answer that first question.
Wow. That's all right.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
listen. Well, listen. So, listen. Hey, this has been really good. I just want. By the way, folks, you might have noticed me putting like little things because I was coughing and coughing and coughing. So I've been eating like little lozenge type things to keep me from coughing. But anyway, listen. This is really good. Yeah. We're gonna talk offline. I got a couple things, and then too, you're connected to a lot of people and stuff like that, and I just want to let you know, for the people who are working your stuff, make sure we become friends and making sure that they send your material my way, that I can play it, talk about it, et cetera. I'd be very happy to do that. So just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
too,
Cool.
anybody else
That's beautiful.
for the show, yeah, we'll do it.
Right.
This is all right. I want to just give a big shout out to Wally B, because Wally B is the one that connected us.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my brother out there, man.
Yeah.
That is my brother. Yeah.
So I want to give Wally B a big shout out. The second thing I want to do too is Chuck Roberts. Chuck Roberts, what a good brother. And when we were talking, in the beginning of my show, that's why I said, to say thank you again posthumously. Anyway, I'm going to get it right. Anyway, but he was the one who did my vocal drop.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There was Jack had
right.
He's the one who did that. So for those who don't know,
right.
And it shocked me, because I always call him, I would call him a couple times a year.
Right.
He did the show, and I'd say at least 3 times a year I would call him, and then I was due for another call to him. And then when I talked to you, and you said,
man, broke my heart, man. Broke my heart. Me and Chuck Marshall did a thing here, he had a DJ gig here in Chicago at SeatGeek Stadium and stuff, right? So him, Marshall, Chuck, and Vince Lawrence was on the phone, and Vince was calling Marshall to see if Chuck could perform, because Chuck had recorded the theme song for the soccer team, the soccer team here. And so Vince wanted Marshall to let Chuck perform the soccer theme song during his set. So Chuck said, no. He said, I don't know it well enough to perform it, He said, but I will do this. So he asked Marshall, he said, is Kurt coming? Marshall said, well, he's on the guest list. He said, I will do this. I will do In the Beginning to Move Your Body. If Kurt comes and performs, Move Your Body.
Okay.
So Chuck called me up with the idea. He's like, bro, check this out. I said, what up, Chuck? He told me what I just told you. And I said, wait a minute, Chuck. I said, that sounds like that might be kind of hot. I said, well, let me see if I got something to do that particular day. I called him back like 15, 20 minutes. I say, Chuck, we old, man. Dan, we went out there. So what it was, Marshall got there. Well, we got there. Marshall got on stage to set up. So while Marshall was setting up, Chuck came on stage and everybody's focused on Marshall, thinking that's Marshall's first song that he's playing. Chuck was In the Beginning. It was Jack. Jack had a groove and, went into it.
Wow.
And then people looked on stage and saw Chuck with the mic in his hand. Man, that tent went up in flames, right? So Marshall being the person that he is, Chuck was in a zone, man. He should have looped, the dun, 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 or just found something to loop in that intro to let Chuck finish out he told me, dude, when he gets ready to come in for you to say gotta have house, tap Chuck on his shoulder and get the mic from him.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to stop Chuck, man. He was rocking it, man. He had that crowd going.
Mm-hmm.
But the drum roll came in, man. I said, damn. So I missed. I think I came in all night long. It's gonna set you, whatever. And Chuck, and when them people looked up there and saw me with the mic in my hand, oh man, that tent just so. I'm like, man, and me and Chuck, man, when we came off stage and little young females, because we was kind of leery. Well, I was kind of leery because it was a young crowd. I'm like, Chuck, I said, I don't think these people, I said, they too young to know anything about old school house.
Right.
So when Marshall came out, the crowd kind of started cheering. They kind of started cheering like, oh, okay. I say, Chuck, that's a good sign. I say, they know who he is. And so so like I said, we came out there and we did that, man. And I mean, them people went off, man. When the hearts, how you do the two hands and make a little heart symbol.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, man. Do y'all be having the Art Fest out there? I think it's called the Art Fest here.
Not really an art fest that I know of. We do have events where we do house music. I mean, we have really, really big events. We have Warren Lanco is one of the biggest, if not the biggest. You have Lincoln Park. You have Weequahic Park.
Right. I performed at Lincoln Park.
Okay.
I did the Lincoln Park. Yeah.
So those are some of the biggest. I'm probably forgetting someone, and I apologize for that in advance. But those are, there's Edison, big stuff. Maplewood's doing stuff now. Irvington. So
okay.
So yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in this area. This is another good summer too.
Okay.
Listen. Look, I feel really, really privileged to have had an opportunity to have a conversation with you.
Man, thanks for having me, Dan. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, big up to my man Ron Johnson, Mr. Wally B in the house.
Yeah, Wally B. Well, I'm gonna finish out the show. We're gonna go into the Shazam Free Zone, and the Shazam Free Zone we do is we play brand new music, brand new house music, and we not only play it but we say it. You don't have to look it up. I'm gonna tell you what it is. So you're welcome to hang out. If not, we're going to go to about 3 o'clock, or if you got to jump off, it's no problem. But I want to say thanks, and I'm going to reach out to you after the show, all right, a little bit later today, all right?
Okay.
Okay, then. Hey,
all right, Dan. Well, like I say, I'm going to run, because I got to make a couple of runs, man.
Okay, no problem.
I'm going to make these runs, and then, like I say, just hit me up, man, later, Dan.
Okay, we'll do. All right.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
And tell Marcus I say what's up, man.
Okay, Marcus. All right. All right.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
All right, bro.
All right.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.